Welcome back to Savage 911. Today we have this beautiful 1969 Porsche 911 here as a reference to make sure we get the panel gaps and fit correct for this petrol blue car as we start to get the panels on. And I'm also going to be dropping that front suspension and getting into it. So let me talk quickly about what was difficult about getting this front suspension off. So the tie rods we already talked about. The inner tie rods, removing those was very difficult. Outer tie rods was pretty easy. The other difficult part, the really difficult part was this lock nut on the bottom of the control arm bushing. And I have a bag here of bits and pieces, which is an absolute mess because the control arm bushings have a rubber and underneath it is packed with grease and it just explodes everywhere when you separate. The lock nut was extremely difficult to get off. I had to get the official Porsche tool, 280B from memory, which has these kind of 4 pins lock into the lock nut impact driver. That was the only thing that worked. I tried heat, penetrant, pipe wrench, cheater bar, everything, nothing moved except for this. So that was really important. So that's all really. The other part that was a little bit difficult was getting this ring off here. This part screws down onto here. This is an older style suspension strut that is actually oil filled in here. And so when you pull this apart, when I pull this out the top, it's going to drip oil absolutely everywhere. So you keep this bottom strut, you remove this top bit, and then you put in, this is a Bogue strut by the way, and then you put in I've chosen to put in the Bilstein B6 insert, and that will just drop into the lower half of that strut, bolt into the top, and we should be pretty good to go. It needs to be torqued down on this ring here, which is a whole other problem, but I will get to that. So the next part that I'm going to do here is I've undone the steering rod bolt from the steering wheel, so that now when I undo all of the bolts underneath on the front suspension, the whole control arms and that cross-section support and the steering rack should all just drop out. And now we've got the front suspension out and the steering rack, and you can see what had happened. This one I got off fine, this tie rod. This one, the boot had already split. You can see how that split off there. And this side has been absolutely massacred trying to get this tie rod off unsuccessfully. So at least hopefully now it's out of the car, I'll have a better shot at it. And then obviously I will have to grease all these rods up, which are looking pretty dry. And I'm actually going to rebuild it as well while I'm here, seeing as I've got it out of the car. And then this side, I've got to decide how I'm going to clean that up and coat it to prevent corrosion. So that's the next step. Well, it took a pipe wrench and a breaker bar, but I finally got this rusty tie rod out. To get this sway bar off, we first have to get this bushing out, and you can see I've exposed a little bit there, less than that one. It's quite awkward because you've got to get a pry bar in here and get some leverage and then kind of just work your way out. Almost there. Yes, okay. Now I can get the sway bar out. All right. One control arm. Torsion bar should just pull out. It's looking pretty dirty. There's a lot of gravel on that bar. Still plenty of grease, but not pretty. Don't think you should have a lot of gravel in there. I reckon actually these ones will be the worst because very difficult to get leverage on these ones. And then I'm going to probably wire wheel all the arms and coat them with a satin black Pour 15. So that should prevent any of this corrosion coming back. And it should look good. Should keep them going for a long time. So you can see on this bushing, it's an oval shape. It's well worn out. The danger with this is the torsion rod will then rub on the thin side against the steel tube and start to wear through the protective coating. So I need to fix all that up. But first I need to actually get the torsion bar out, and this one has kind of rusted into the spline. The trick is to bang the torsion bar the wrong way to smash out the dust cap, and then once you got the dust cap out, you can hit it back the other way through where the dust cap was to get it back out. Next, I'm going to do the 3-step Pour 15 process. So the first part is to wire wheel, clean and degrease the material back down to as much bare metal as possible. Then a metal prep, which is basically a rust converter to go over it, and it actually deposits some zinc on the rusted areas. And then thirdly, go through and paint with satin black rust preventative coating, which should just seal out all of the oxygen and protect this metal. All of the suspension components are now painted. They look beautiful in black, and I'm going to do a quick rebuild of the steering box, and then we're done with suspension for now. As you can see, I've got the front latch panel pretty well aligned now. So the fit down the bottom is pretty good. The sides is pretty good. Obviously, I need to bang this in and wrap it around, ready for MIG welding. But I'm pretty happy with that. In particular, kind of lining up the front edge of this to this kind of seal rail here on both sides. So that's my reference. There's a little bit of fiddly stuff to do here, but the interesting part is, and the complicated part, is this seal channel that runs down here. So this is obviously a G-body seal, but the F-body seal runs all the way to here, and it runs in channel. But you can see this is a little bit deeper actually, and there's also meant to be a bolt through here into the front latch panel, which I don't have a lot to bolt into at the moment. And if you look at the reference car, it's kind of interesting how it comes together. So you can see the seal actually stays out. It has almost like a little bridge that they've welded on as a channel. And then that outer guard bolts on underneath the bridge. And you can see they've even built up this area here. My panel is just flat, whereas this is clearly built up. So I've got to make somewhat of a bridge to get out here to keep this seal in line with the panel and then in line with the horn grill to come out. And then that'll stop any water kind of getting in from the front here. So that's important. And then the other intersection is this bit here. This is less fancy. They've just basically smashed this down underneath the channel. So they're the bits I've got to get right. After looking at the reference car, I've lined everything up and we're ready to weld.
Can we get a fan going at the top of it?
I was particularly happy with this much stronger front oil cooler bottom mount. So there are two projects going on here. The suspension is going pretty well. The control arms and everything look great. Bushings have been pressed on by Autohouse. That's pretty much ready to go back on. The only issue is I need a narrow, less than 8mm crow's foot, 32mm wrench to torque down the turbo tie rods onto the steering rack. So I'm waiting for that. It should come later today. The other part is the welding, which structurally we're all done, which is awesome. Super happy about that. There are some obviously cosmetic little bits that need patching, and then I will use some seam sealer to just make sure all the seams are sealed, all the water's out, there's no rust getting in. There is, however, one issue, which is in this wing here, we tried welding in a plate, but it just blows through every time because all down this piece is rusted out. It's so paper thin you can't weld to it. So this wing panel will need to be replaced. You can buy them, they're in stock actually, so it's okay, but it's more work and chasing rust through the car is not what I wanted to do. So I've got to try and scope that. Please like and subscribe so you can see if I can successfully control the rust in this car. Thanks for watching. Bye.